President Trump's legal team, meantime, is weighing having him testify before the Special Counsel Robert Mueller if questions are limited in scope and don't amount to a potential perjury trap. For more on this, let's turn to former prosecutor David Bruno, and we can talk about this memo that Kelly Wright reported on as well. David, good to see you.
Good morning.
That's always been the concern. I mean, from people we've been speaking to, the idea that if the president does testify, no matter what side you are on this, just from a legal perspective, from a lawyer's perspective, that you might be walking into a perjury trap. But now there are reports maybe he is considering some sort of testimony, whether it's written or oral. We don't know. But what would you advise him to do?
The same thing. Either not provide a statement or provide something that's limited in scope or written. And just look last week, we saw yet another plea. It was Rick Gates to lying to federal investigators. That's the third. It's Papadopoulos, Flynn, and Gates. This is Mueller's MO. In this investigation, he has to be careful.
People, just normal people who don't have a legal background, might react to that and say, boy, if I have nothing to hide, why wouldn't I testify? What do you say to that?
Sure,
argument?
that's public perception, and that's the unfortunate thing, because what we're talking about is a constitutional protection that everyone in every state in the United States enjoys. And if it goes to trial, if any case goes to trial, a criminal case, a jury has to be instructed that you cannot take that evidence that someone did not give a statement as evidence of guilt.
What do you think he'll do, by the way, before we move on to the memo?
In all likelihood, I think he is going to give some sort of statement. It's probably going to be written or limited in scope, because when we talk about the public perception, that's very different than the constitutional protections. And he has a concern that he wants to get reelected, and that has to be a driving force for him as well.
Okay, let me go back to what Kelly Wright was reporting on, and that's the release of this Democratic memo, 10 pages over the weekend, a number of redactions included in it. It follows up on the GOP memo from David Nunes and company in the House Intelligence Committee. Now, I know from a political perspective, I'm sure that those on the right and the left will retreat to their respective corners and, claim victory or defeat or whatever it may be, and this probably won't change much. Legally, what did you take away from the release of both memos in terms of how the process was handled in obtaining this warrant to conduct surveillance on this guy, Carter Page?
Yeah, I definitely still have a problem as to how it was explained the Steele dossier was funded. Specifically, this is getting lost in translation in the media. The actual quote that they used, the FBI speculates that the identified U.S. person was likely looking for information that could be used to discredit candidate one's campaign. That's not enough. The Nunes memo says that they should have used actual Clinton campaign and DNC identifiers as opposed to this. This, for me, doesn't get it. It's not definitive. It says speculates.
It is a key part of the argument. It's interesting that you bring that up. And I don't know, how much experience you have with this, but maybe you could expand on it a little bit more. The argument from the Democrats is that is kind of common practice, what you just described, is saying, hey, it's political, but not saying how it's political, not saying it's the DNC and the Clinton campaign. You're saying that's not common practice?
Well, I mean, common practice maybe in street crimes and some everyday cases, but this is not them. This is very, very different. This is during a presidential campaign. This is the opponent. I believe that this rises to a level of something greater, that care should have been used and more information should have been provided.
Okay, thanks for the analysis this morning. David Bruno, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right.